Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oskar Musoke, and this weather is perfect for the Capital Gang. In the studio already, I have Edgar Tabaharo. Edgar, you're most welcome to Gang once again.
Oh, thank you very much, Oskar. It's always a pleasure
and
interacting
we seem to time you with these global issues and so on. That's when, when I invited you, I didn't know that we would get sanctions and so on, but you are.
I saw the sanctions coming, those of us with ears to the ground. There are actually a raft of others that are coming out of the United States. I mean, at the expense of preempting what you're going to ask me, whenever you attend barbecues, not these formal dinners, not the formal dinners, leave the formal dinners, people pretend. Barbecues are these Western embassies.
They say something.
And particularly, I don't consume alcohol, but when it's flowing freely, people get to say things. and those of us who are analysts, we pick and synthesize.
Yes. Joseph Ochieno is in studio, Forever UPC. You're most welcome to Gang, the most optimistic, if I can borrow such a word, UPC member.
The most optimistic citizen of the Republic of Uganda. I told you guys so, UPC is the future. I told you guys so, this country, Uganda, is possible. I told you that whatever happens, whether it's Mabati, whether it's rain at Kampala, whether it's potholes, we shall sort out this mess. But like Edgar says, you could see some of the things coming. It's rather unfortunate. But it's extraordinary anyway that we'll be discussing something like sanctioning a Speaker of Parliament. So the last UPC Speaker must be very comfortable somewhere at the outskirts of Kampala enjoying his tea, but not getting worried about passports and visas. Interesting.
Then we have Agathe Atuhaire. I saw you teasing me on X, formerly Twitter. You're most welcome to Gang.
Thank you, Oskar. Thank you. I am happy to be here.
Yes. I'm also expecting Honorable Kateshumba and Honorable Katuntu, Honorable Anyoto to come into the studio anytime. So let's start with that very subject. And with you, Agatha. Sanctions against 3 Ugandan officials. The one that's most notable is the Speaker of Uganda's Parliament. And this time round, she's responded quickly, although previously she does not respond to rumors. But she did respond. And she has said she has nothing to worry about sanctions by the UK. Should she worry?
Well, I think everyone has a way they should feel about things. I don't know what you see when she's saying she doesn't worry. I see worry and panic, and I think that the first blunder was in the response from her PR, the spokesperson of Parliament. I don't think that was the way to go about government sanctions to another government. And I am waiting for a day I will share information about her properties in the UK and tag and quote a tweet where she said, I don't even have a pussycat there, because she knows she has property there. So, but generally about the sanctions, I think for me and other people that care about accountability in this country, it made my week. I hate that.
You have no sympathy for her?
No.
Or the other 2 former ministers?
You see,
from your work on the parliamentary exhibition?
From my work, not just that, but from my work on how she has handled Parliament since she took over. I think she's going to go down in history as the only person that has been sanctioned in her second year of leadership. Well, it's not yet 3 years. Yeah, I think it will be 3 years at the end of this month. So if you have a country that doesn't care about accountability for citizens' resources, you are going to be happy. And I hear them, oh, imperialists, so what? But if I had a father...
Katesh is here. Honorable Katesh Shumba was one of those on the floor of Parliament calling on imperialists.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He's one of her defenders. Yes. She has many, but yeah. So I was saying that if I had a father that abuses his children, or any one of us, you would be happy if a neighbor intervenes and so that they don't kill you. So me, I am very happy. It doesn't matter where the punishment or sanctions comes from. It doesn't even matter the rationale. I have heard people say, oh, but it can't be because of Mabati. Me, I don't care. I know that I have put out stuff there that shows she's mismanaging resources of Parliament, and many others know it. If we have a government that does not think that's important, that does not even... She admitted the NGOs issues, she admitted herself taking them, returned them. That was enough for someone to be charged and prosecuted. She wasn't.
She said that she had taken them to work on a public school.
But they were not meant for a public school in her constituency.
And she has said that it is because she presided over the anti-homosexuality bill that's why she's being sanctioned.
But Kadaga presided over the anti-homosexuality bill in 2013. Was she sanctioned? And the anti-homosexuality bill, the speaker is not the one who even should pay for that. You know, if we knew our jobs, the job of a speaker is to just arbitrate these debates, to sit and be a referee and say, Asuman Basari, as far as we know, introduced the anti-homosexuality bill. The Committee of Legal scrutinized it and wrote a report. It came back to the House. The MPs voted over it. The people that voted are all on record. We know that it was just 2 people that voted no. Why didn't they sanction the MPs? Why didn't they sanction
at least? voted for it as well.
At least, oh yeah, he did. Why didn't they sanction at least the 2 that led it? So if we are going to, and you know, there's this cartoon that Spire drew during that time when it shows thief, and no, the homosexuals are after me. Like, if we are going to take the homosexuals as an excuse every time, but like I've told you, that the parliament that was led by Kadaga, the 9th parliament, passed the anti-homosexuality bill, and she was not sanctioned.
You know, Katesh, whenever I have Agatha on gang, I start to worry a lot. And now she's making drama out of my worrying. Because
she's breaking news.
She's what? I beg your pardon?
She's breaking news. You know, some stuff's yet to come.
No.
So when she starts talking about...
He thinks they will switch off capital because...
Yes. When she now starts talking about property and so on,
you know,
you start to worry very much.
I'm just saying, you wait.
So over to you, Katesh, because you've just arrived, but you are the MP in the studio.
He has been teeing off at the golf course.
No, it's okay. Yes.
He will go after, but you're the MP in the studio. You're, of course, you're going to say that these colonialists, attacking our sovereignty and so on. I've given you opening lines, yeah.
Why are you trying to? In Parliament, we call it debating in anticipation. It is actually not allowed. Actually, I don't know what your question is. Let me say good morning to the listeners.
That's a bit unusual. How are you, my brother?
But at least this time you haven't told me that I've asked the wrong question.
Yeah.
So, what are the sanctions? Were these sanctions necessary? What will they mean for the Speaker and the 2 former ministers?
Well, I read about the sanctions from a press release. There was a press release
by Parliament.
By the government of UK. So that press release is entitled UK sanctions corrupt politicians in Uganda who stole from vulnerable communities. So the press release says that UK imposing sanctions on Ugandan politicians, including Speaker of Parliament, following corruption charges for stealing from the poorest of communities. etc. First of all, I think every country, it is in their right to issue sanctions if they wish. If Uganda wanted to issue sanctions against any country, it is within their right as UK. Secondly, the reasons they have stated are generating debate within the House, within the country, about the rationale behind the sanctions. Because, we are in the same country, Agathe. So don't say, I'm not saying within the whole country or within a specific population. I'm just saying within the country because I'm part of the ecosystem. So the reasons they have given are generating a debate, and it might be whether it is perception versus the real intent. So that's the debate that is going on, and everybody has the right to dismiss whether the perceptions are far-fetched.
Joseph, Katesh is usually very fluent.
Yes,
speaks quickly.
Yes.
Now he's choosing each word on this occasion.
No, I'm building my
I've been
point.
following that very closely.
So
choosing one word, then half a word, then half a sentence.
Yeah, so because you wanted to determine the script I should take. Unfortunately, I will not do it. I have to apply my mind and objectivity to this matter. So I stated clearly that any country, it is within their right to issue sanctions. Whether they are right or wrong, that's their business. Number two,
let him continue. You are not on microphone. Go on.
Number two, the sanctions, the reasons they have given, because I'm looking at the statement I have explained, and they are generating questions and discussions whether what is perceived to be the reasons behind the sanctions, stealing from the poor, vis-a-vis the real intent. Because the debate is, okay, if it is about Mavati, stealing from Karamoja, why then do you target X, Y, Z and leave ABCD? That one you cannot take it away from the debate. People have a right to ask and discuss. Why do you say you are tackling ABCD? Secondly, from where I sit, Oskar, the analysis seems to suggest that the government of UK was trying to avoid perhaps a direct collision with the executive. So they skirt around the issue, leave out some people who are charged, leave the other big people involved in Mawati, zero down on the two who are vulnerable, they are out of cabinet, then put your big target and try and isolate her in the corner so that she can be abandoned, and then you put whatever pressure you want to do. That seems to be the case, and therefore the diplomats may have a different analysis, but that being the case, then it becomes a matter of how does the government of Uganda respond. I do not believe that everybody should be jumping up and down to respond to this matter, but it is a matter that is a political and diplomatic issue. That the Minister of Foreign Affairs, first of all, needed to interact with the ambassador here, get the details, and be able to state the position through a diplomatic and a political process. That would perhaps mitigate the trap, which I think is the trap of saying let's isolate a particular target, and then have this Uganda to sugarcoat the issue, but the real reasons are behind. And for me, it would have been better if you actually come out full blast, give all the cries you have. Like, Agathe says, I don't mind for whatever reason they could have used it, but why don't you throw them out there? Why move around the issue? And that's a perception in the public, and we represent the public. So people are saying, no, we know this is the reason, but it's not written. And so my view
maybe Katesh, you keep away from the word public for now.
Okay.
Now, because a few weeks back, Parliament was not looking so good in the public.
Yes, of course.
And
that's
our listener, BMK Gift.
Cuts of the disruptor, Agathe Atuhaire.
and our listener here, BMK Gift Senior, says at Musoke, Triple A didn't say that she doesn't respond to rumors, but she instead said that she doesn't respond to social media, the same channel through which the sanctions came.
So,
there was an official statement from
very quickly
from Mitchell. The overseas development minister.
So for me, I think that maybe government, I think, has got.
Should check his.
Let's go to Joseph. Put Katesh out of some misery.
The only misery I have is the weather outside, because you see how I'm dressed.
I've never.
She's my MP, by the way.
She's your MP. Yeah.
She has.
But Abdu Kantu is in the studio. He will give support. You're most welcome to
I've never seen Katesh so subdued.
Because of the weather.
I woke up early morning. I went to the game to play. Now I wake up, I see the weather forecast. It is only showing 20% of the rain, and then suddenly it has changed. So I'm not in the.
Please populate your phone with the right apps.
Let's go to Joseph. Joseph Ochieno, I presume that you are fully in agreement with Agatha that whatever the charge is, you have been waiting for it.
No, I am actually fully in with the citizens of this country. Indeed, my continued sympathy go to the people of Karamoja. In fact, I once upon a time nearly shed tears at a media house when we're discussing the possibilities that the most privileged people in this country could be amongst the people who, in a very arrogant way, very publicly seek to deny the poorest, the most vulnerable in this country, the people from Karamoja, the very basics, in this case, iron sheets, some goats that never arrived, and let's not forget money. I suggested that if there was Chogam, if there was Temangalo, amongst the crudest criminality, and I use that very deliberately, where the theft of monies and resources intended for HIV/AIDS and malaria, lest we forget, and the worst amongst all, if you can put the three of them together, is the Karamoja scandal. So there is no way any average Ugandan citizen should be able to defend this. But I think where I agree with Agatha is the shocking attempt by our people who rule us, who allegedly lead us, to attempt to fight this. And if there was any advice, possibly Edgar will help. Katesh suggests the same, that it is the responsibility of the government of Uganda, if we ever have one, to come up and attempt to diplomatically manage the response, because it's basically a state-to-state thing. In any case, our Speaker of Parliament is amongst the top leaders, and actually within the democratic dispensation. That's what I told another network. I don't know of any situation where a Speaker of Parliament has ever been sanctioned. When the Americans and their allies were sanctioning Saddam Hussein, they tried their level best, Katesh, to avoid actually the then Minister for Foreign Affairs, because that was the diplomatic space. And so for this to happen here, it's no longer business as usual. Sanctions from the time I was in primary school we were shouting about sanctions against apartheid South Africa. We went on to continue talking sanctions and the hypocrisy around it, which some of the people come around to talk about.
Is the reason you were ousted in 1971.
Absolutely true.
So the UDI.
Indeed, and it's not
Universal Declaration of Independence.
Indeed, that's not new. So it's a major weapon.
ANC was sanctioned, so was Mandela, designated terrorist.
Yeah. So, but from the
remember that.
Indeed. So it's not necessarily anything new. But so for it to come here in this very mild way, my only disappointment is that we are talking Anita plus 2 vulnerable ministers, and we're not talking about what is happening in State House, and we're not talking about higher offices, including Minister for Finance, who plays miracle at this back garden finds Mabati there. The other thing, though, is that while there was an attempt to respond by my very good friend Chris Obore on behalf of the NRA state, he's my colleagues and your colleague in fraternity. We are all brothers and sisters in this country. To seem to bring the question of imperialism, the question of sovereignty is rather cheek. It is not an easy thing for normally these governments to take the line that they did take. My opinion is that perhaps we needed to be asking ourselves more why it took this long for these people to be sanctioned, and as I said, why possibly these individuals. I am one of those people who has been asking for targeted sanctions against individuals in this country in the last 30 years, particularly arms targeted sanctions around arms, the kind of thing that beat up people in the streets of Kampala. And as I mentioned, 2 things to do with Temangalo and malaria and related situations. I think that Uganda should be talking less about sanctions about UK, but the fact that has happened expose the corruption that is taking place in this country, the impunity that is taking place in this country, the fact that the people who've been sanctioned, except the 2, some of them already, many of them are already continuing to serve in government, and what is at stake is our public monies. This relates to the more recent desperate attempt to begin to review taxes and begin to target people in Chikubu, when the real guys are the people who have not been mentioned. So to that extent, I will agree with Katesh that the bigger issue is not yet being mentioned. But just a quick one, though. I think, unfortunately, in diplomacy, the way the UK state is working, possibly they are trying to put a hint of their displeasure while leaving the bigger and the bigger. And how the bigger state, the national state, operates and responds should really be something that concerns us. Unfortunately, the way it happens, most of us ordinary citizens don't know that we are waiting for bigger, more complicated situations arising.
Thank you, Joseph. Yeah. Sure. Edgar, do sanctions matter?
Yes.
The last time we knew of a sanctioned person, was it General Kaihura? And I don't think the sanctions per se affected him, did they?
Sanctions are very insidious, my friend. And I'm not very comfortable discussing the name that you just mentioned.
He's not up for discussion, but I just mentioned...
Is it because he's from Tsaro?
No, we actually distant relatives. He's a cousin, but...
We're talking about sanctions, not him.
No, we had an exchange and...
Don't see Edgar started
No, because he started with
now it's your turn.
Kaihura. No, he started with General Kaihura. And
the question is, do they matter? Do sanctions
they do,
matter?
and I started by saying that sanctions are very insidious. We may chest thump and, invoke all these sophistry, Pan-Africanism, imperialism, and sovereignty. At the end of the day, it's the bearer of the sanctions who faces the music. I'll give you an example of what happens. One, no bank that operates the SWIFT will be comfortable dealing with you anymore. In fact, quietly, from the information we've been getting, the banks do write to them that Honorable so-and-so, given that you've been put on the red list, we are unable to continue the bank-client relationship, banker-customer relationship. And as such, we have to say goodbye. It's been done to many officials in the region. and I believe in Uganda too, from what that we've been hearing. Your relations, immediate relations, progeny. There's an official I know in the region whose child, progeny, had their admission rescinded at one of the universities, one of the Ivy College, one of the Ivy League universities, and they told the child that it was a pleasure having you here, but we can't continue this because of these sanctions.
The child was already
had already registered as for a higher degree.
So we can also have other instances.
Then
for 10 years, the Honorable Senator Muchagulani was
sanctioned in the UK. There are also other generals in Uganda I'm not comfortable mentioning on air.
Why?
For obvious reasons. These are facts. So, no, but they also go for your business associates. If for some reason he was introduced, although he didn't speak, the Honorable, my senior and former teacher, Abdu Kantu, were to trade under Katuntu and Tabaharo. And he's sanctioned because he's the more likely candidate.
No, but Abdu has already spoken. That's unfair.
They would say, Mr. Tabaharo, we say we are unable to deal with you in these sisters. We can't accept you. We can't permit you to do business in the territories in the country that has been sanctioned. So they are that insidious. And this chest thumping going around, I don't see any productivity in it, quite frankly. And drawing from what Honorable Katesum has submitted, I think there is a tragic failure of diplomacy. And I'll give background to it. In 1991, Major Innocent Bisangu and Ambassador Kapimpina Katenta Apuli were arrested in Orlando, Florida, buying illicit weapons. They were arrested together with Egyptian generals. Now, the Egyptian generals, they were all charged in court, but the charges against Bisangu and Katenta Apuli were dropped. The ones against the Egyptian generals continued. Now,
because the others didn't matter anyway.
Not that
they mattered
at the timing and strategically so.
Strategically so,
yes,
and we know where those weapons were going.
Yes.
And the geopolitics of the time were that United States was for that formation.
Correct.
And diplomatically they engaged. First of all, Katenta Apuli was our accredited envoy to Washington DC. But I also do know from my interactions with the powers that be that your good friend, as well as your good friend, your former colleague, now deceased, the Honorable Siriori Agri-Awori, was very critical in negotiating the dropping of those charges. Why? An Ivy Leaguer, and you know what Agri-Awori used to do behind the curtains.
Yes.
We all know what those of us who were close to him know what he was doing.
Leave my arrested
and
elder.
unknown to the public, Agri-Awori was actually related through marital relation with the then Director General of the spy chief then, General Jim Muhwezi. These are things people don't know. And he was very critical in negotiating their release and what have you.
Then he was acting on behalf of Uganda, not individuals.
You see now, the individual, I'm talking about these individual relationships do matter. And I'd like to fast forward. You remember in 2005 when your principal was arrested on return from South Africa, and we were going to negotiate.
My then principal.
Your then principal, Dr.
Yes.
Uganda went to Malta. Was it Malta? Chogam, Malta, preparing to host Chogam 2007. Was it 2007?
Lobbying at the time,
They were lobbying at the time to host Chogam. And everybody in our space, majority of people in our space were pretty much agreed that Uganda was not going to host that conference. Why? I mean, the pictures were glaring and really ugly, creating a very bad impression about Uganda. There was that one individual, the Honorable Samuel Kahamba Kutesa, who created a personal relationship with what was it? Don McKinnon, the Secretary General of
Don
McKinnon, ex-Foreign Minister of Australia. Personal relationship, and it is those personal relationships that helped.
But you see, international diplomacy, that's how it works.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. That's what I'm saying, Honorable Katuntu. That
you just have to have the right people,
Precisely.
in the right
places
to do the right thing.
And it's a full-time responsibility, not part-time. You have to pursue it like your life depends on it.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, early 90s, the late John Kazora, John Rutajema, John Wycliffe Rutajema Kazora, was very critical in working behind the scenes, particularly with the Chatham House.
And at the time, some of us, the work we're doing, including with Don McKinnon, our letters and the petitions, they would just be dropped in the basket.
I know when you were in Manchester. I know the things you used to author. They would be dropped. Now, I can assure you, there's a very big juncture as to what is happening at Westminster and Buckingham Palace. President Museveni has very good relations with Prince William through a foundation that Prince William is patron. It's a you know it in Bushen. You know it. You're a beneficiary, not directly, but as a community. And you're aware. His Excellency President.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying diplomacy because you walked out. I'm talking about diplomacy. I'm talking about
his mind walked out.
No, he was upset-minded. I'm talking about diplomacy.
So all of us together, that the way the response has been made really does not serve the purposes for our country.
Now, Honorable Mulimba has issued a statement. There's a same statement I've seen this morning. It's the best attempt at diplomacy that we've done thus far. Now, going forward, it came a little bit too late.
Yes, going forward,
the Right Honorable Among should engage in what they call risk mitigation. She is wearing a crown and seated in a very dangerous seat. We have an administration that has been around for 40 years. They are regime change agents in those Western capitals. And they have agents in this country and possibly even on this table where we're seated. I said possibly. I don't know why some people are protesting.
For the record, I'm not the one protesting. In any case,
I am not a candidate.
I am
not a candidate. And some regime change agents are unprincipled. So they will bend each and every rule. Agatha, please don't look at me that way. I'm not calling you an unprincipled regime change agent. It's okay to want to change the regime.
So long as I am the principled one, I receive it.
Honorable Kantu, please, the Honorable Kateshova, please relay this message to the Right Honorable Among. She ought to deploy smarter people in managing her affairs going forward. You have the resources. She has to engage in risk mitigation. You touched on, we talked about this when Dr. Dennis Matanda was here talking, when we were discussing AGOA. You cannot go after a minority group in a liberal democracy and expect those people to fold their hands. The two biggest and most influential lobby groups in this world are the Jewish lobby and the gay people. You touch them, please bear the consequences, like they say.
So you have now agreed with the speaker.
When you lay a bed, what?
But Edgar, it's actually dangerous. We're not there for suggesting that this issue about homosexuality or any Jewish lobby. It's really about what these guys did in this country and what they contributed to.
But to be fair to the Right Honorable Among, she returned the Mabati. She returned the Mabati. We have had many people. There was a minister for tourism, if you remember, Honorable Katuti, in the early 90s. You remember there was a minister for tourism. I'm not going to mention his name because he's deceased. He borrowed a television set from Nile Conference Center, and he developed a bad quarrel with the Goreme, Frederick Goreme, whom he dismissed as the director of International Conference Center. And you remember the issue of the TV set came up. But because he was amiable, good with the public, and a good friend of the Honorable Katutu, they let it go. But I mean, he had diverted the public property. I'm
going to pause you now, and then we go to Abdu. Abdu Kantu. So we have sanctions. The Speaker of Parliament has been sanctioned by the UK. Does it matter to begin with from you?
It does matter, but it's not surprising. And I really don't know what this hullabaloo is all about. Did we see it coming? We saw it coming.
Yeah.
Did we see it coming with the Mabati? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And let me give you the facts. I was chairperson of the organizing committee of the Commonwealth Speakers and Presiding Officers Conference. Immediately, we passed that anti-homosexuality law. Canada, United Kingdom, New Zealand, Malta, Australia went on an overdrive saying Uganda should not host this conference. They wrote letters to all the Commonwealth countries' parliaments urging member states not to come for that conference. We also now had to go in an overdrive. And for 3 months, Oskar, you knew my travels. I was in the Asia, I was in the Caribbean, talking to countries, individual countries. For 3 months, I was out of this country. And when we reached there, these people had even sent footages how the gay people in this country are being mistreated and so on. Killed. I remember when we were in British Virgin Islands, there is that footage which is always on TV when they are hitting, UPDF is hitting somebody, I think, a journalist or what. Then it was like, this how gay people in Uganda are treated. So we're not coming. The US actually went and issued a statement that we are going to do targeted sanctions, and actually they have done it. However, with the US system is different. It's when you go there like you want to have a visa that they disclose it. And for sure, they even wrote, remember, a letter to the Right Honorable Speaker saying, please bring your passport for review. And the Speaker said, no, the passport belongs to is a property of the Republic of Uganda. So if you want it to write to government, they will give it to you. So, and this happened last year, Oskar. We knew it was coming. And when we eventually hosted the CISPOC, as we call it, the patrons of the Commonwealth is United Kingdom. They boycotted, they didn't attend. Why? It was not about Mabati. It was about homosexuality. Australia, which handed over, because they are the ones, we had the CISPOC in Australia, in Canberra, and I was there, didn't attend. New Zealand didn't attend. So is Canada and another country called Malta. Sir Linsley, the Speaker of the House of Commons, is my friend. We discussed, I even had in my mind how we are going to host him and so on, where I asked him whether we could do, he can take off another 2-3 days after the conference, go to our parks and so on. Wrote a 3-paragraph letter without giving a reason. I'm unable to attend. So to go back to everybody who doesn't want to, who wants to be honest with himself, this thing is all about what we did. And let me tell you, we went and had a meeting with the president when we passed that law. He called 7 of us, I think, but it was eventually a public meeting. He told us, you guys, you've done this, but be ready for the consequences. He did it. And we all are aware. Now, we went ahead and had one of the most successful Commonwealth conferences here in Kampala in January. One of the most successful in the history of the Commonwealth.
What makes it successful? Numbers, attendance?
Both.
No, I just...
Both. It was well organized. Numbers were good, because you can imagine when the patron does not come and you have a rebellion of the member states to come and attend, except you who are sympathetic I'm not talking about Agatha, but I'm talking about the other people who are pathetic or who have embraced homosexuality. But, for example, the entire continent came, Africa. Big countries in the Asia, Pakistan, Malaysia, Singapore, India, mention it, Sri Lanka, all of them were here. I can tell you, did you, Agatha, you were one of the most informed journalists. You must have followed this conference. You did to the latter. Did you see it? Did you watch it? So to me,
I wanted to know the determinants of success from your perspective. Yeah,
the attendance, and when you have somebody say, don't attend, don't go, and eventually people said, no, we've had the big man patron, but we are going, and they came. That makes it successful. But even the numbers, you get, we had even speakers who took off more days after the conference to stay around and fraternize. And they used to say that when you go to Uganda, you don't know this country is this country is this. And they came and they saw it wasn't. So, Oskar, yes, true, is corruption.
Just hold on.
That's
We're
okay.
Send the microphone to you.
So to me, it is true that there is corruption in Uganda. It is true there is a cancer. That is a real cancer. And it's true we need to fight it together. And we also need the international community and address it. But what I detest is the dishonesty in this. If you want to glorify homosexuality, do it. And we know this issue is about homosexuality. One, it is not our value, it is not our norm, it is not our aspiration as a people. And I did talk to the United Kingdom. I said, look here, as a Commonwealth, we need to unite on issues that unite us. However, those that divide us, let us discuss. I even asked Canada, I said, can we now put homosexuality? Now, this is very interesting. Listen to this, Oskar. I said now that please come and we put homosexuality on the what? On the agenda. They said, no, don't. Can you imagine? They refused flatly. I said, no, let us put it, whether it is the only issue the Commonwealth conference will discuss. Let's put, they said, we don't want that discussed. Why? So, Oskar, yes, was Mabati a good thing? It was a very ugly. It was one of the most stupid things. And I think people, like we've seen there's a court process going on. To me, a man like my brother, my friend Amos Rugolobi, should not even wait for the court process. This one who got the Mabati and did the piggery.
It was a goat. I know how much it despise.
No, but okay, do you despise goats? So okay, the one of goats is called what? The other is called the piggery.
Goat's pain.
Is it a goatary or what?
Goat's pain.
So Oskar, so let me tell you, we have cases like that, and if we are honest, how do you get that sort of person and you don't sanction him, and then you say, well, let me go for others?
He's the Minister for Planning, so I think the honourable Micho has to.
It is true, Oskar. One, that United Kingdom has got a right to sanction whoever they think they will not.
They also have politics because the leading party is not doing very well. So.
Absolutely, they have to do it and so on. But it would be difficult for them to say we are sanctioning. The British are not like the cowboys. The British, they're a little bit of subtle. Even when they came here for colonialism, let me tell you, there are things they were doing and we liked them. Very, very much.
Indirect rule.
Yes. They'll do that and we miss them. Say, hey, by the way, these guys were good and so on. But colonialism was an evil. But let me tell you, what they did, some of them, we miss them. And that's how they work. The cowboys don't do that. For example, when we passed that law, the following week, was it the following day? The following week, when they removed us from AGOA.
AGOA, yeah.
It wasn't long.
It was immediately.
Blinken immediately tweeted.
Blinken immediately.
And they were very definitive.
Tweeted. Yeah. And that's what happened.
Okay.
So, Oskar, one, did we see this coming? Yes. Are there many people who are on that list? Yes. I'll give you an example. The other day on Novo Opendi, you remember?
Sorry.
They also wanted to travel, and that's when she applied for visas. That's when they waived it.
Yeah.
That's when they waived it. I'll give you an example. The Honorable Asumani Basalirwa has not applied to travel.
Has not.
He will not do.
And is he on the list? I would not advise the Honorable Asumani Basalirwa to even dare say that he's applying for visa. But as of now, do you think he's publicly is he there? But let him apply for the US visa, let me apply for the European visa. It will be thrown on his face. And that's what it is.
Let's have journalist Agathe Atuhaire concluding on this topic. I hope you are safe to conclude on it.
On the struggle she
started. On the struggle. But Honorable Asumani Basalirwa can go to China. I don't think that route is closed.
I know I'm talking about
Europe and
I'm talking about the US and Europe.
Yeah.
That one.
China and Russia are not imperialists in this country. They are not foreign interests. It's
no, they actually.
No, I mean from people like you who want to use the foreign interests.
Honorable Abdu Kantu does not belong to that kind of thinking. No. He's a progressive.
I have.
If you have changed the statement,
I am not an admirer of those two countries.
He will defend
himself.
He will defend himself.
But
I don't even need
but the context in which I am saying this is that I have been accused of being an agent of imperialists by both Among and President Museveni and whoever. And the Western imperialists are those the side of the countries on this side. And the president has also said we are going to look for better allies or allies that respect our sovereignty and whatever. And I wonder why we only see them as imperialists when they say no, what you're doing is wrong. When we are seeking aid and getting loans from them and with all the support they have given the NRM government from the time President Museveni was still in the bush, the NRA it was not Western imperialists. But I had a question for Honorable Katuntu, and I asked it before he came in. What's the role of the speaker in passing a bill?
To preside over Parliament.
Why is she the one that is targeted for passing for the anti-homosexuality?
Yeah, because everybody said she championed it. Everybody says she championed it, and indeed she went public about it. Yeah, that was it, including actually.
Why wasn't the former speaker?
Let me give you the facts. Let me give you the facts, including actually those very friends of yours. They are saying this is being championed publicly. So that's not an issue. Everybody knows it's public knowledge that she championed it.
Oh, so it is public knowledge she championed it. Okay, now we are starting to get the truth. So when people were saying it that time, that she actually...
Someone wrote on...
I didn't say
that she
it's
actually...
public knowledge that the perception was that she championed it.
Why wasn't the former speaker, Rebecca Kadaga, sanctioned?
Someone responded to that one, Agatha. I think Levy... He said that because the last bill was thrown out by court, this particular bill has not been thrown out by court.
It was thrown, but it had already been passed. If you are going to punish someone for passing it, and they call it passing it, that it's the speaker who passes a bill, which is not true.
So what are you driving at?
Yes, what I am driving at is that, and Honorable Katun said, yes, is there corruption in this country? Yes. I was waiting for him to say, is the Speaker of Parliament corrupt? Yes, maybe, but...
No, please, and don't do that. And let me tell you, Agatha, this is how I debate.
You thought he can say that?
I speak what I think. I don't want to imagine that I'm on this show to reply to what Agatha is saying.
No one is even saying that, Honorable
So
Katuntu.
you make your point even without
when
reference.
You were speaking, no, because I am just saying that I thought you would say that as well. But of course, you didn't.
I'm not you, Agatha, and I can't be
So
you.
There is corruption.
Yes.
Yeah? Mabati were stolen.
Correct.
And many people admitted to stealing them. I was surprised that Edgar Tabaharo was saying that the speaker, at least to be fair to her, she returned them. You are a lawyer. When there's a charge about theft.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm a senior lawyer.
Oh, it doesn't.
You see, you might compare me to you.
No.
And I think that's wrong.
No. I'm not talking as a lawyer. And you know, this.
I wanted you to conclude on the topic.
I let Honorable Katuntu speak for however
But then you have
long,
been asking him questions.
Being,
he has to respond.
No, but he's a lawyer. It doesn't matter senior or junior. I'm just saying he's a lawyer, right?
It doesn't matter.
When you are on theft charges, do you say that I returned it and therefore is it one of the elements that returning it makes it you are no longer a thief?
Okay, now let me show you how I am a senior lawyer to you. And my first job.
Not to me, I am a journalist.
No, you sort of read some law. But let me tell you one thing, Agatha. My first job was a state attorney in the Directorate of Public Prosecutions. There is what we call plea bargaining. If you've ever heard about it.
I know it.
Plea bargaining is when the accused person concedes the wrong he has done. And that also influences the decision to charge or not to charge.
And even sentencing.
The sentencing.
So these are basic principles of criminal law.
Determines the sentence, how long
even
you are
to charge or not to charge. Even to be a witness of the state or not.
Agatha, the danger is that you delved into the law.
And please don't do that.
Yeah,
please stick to the politics.
What I am,
I beg you kindly.
What I am saying, so the plea bargaining is that I have come and said
let me switch off your microphone, Edgar.
No, you see, you are somewhere where is my comfort zone.
Should stick to the family
and stick to what you know.
I am saying that someone returning what they stole does not take away the fact that they stole it. That is what I am saying. Now, if people come and say, on your own admission, that you stole Mabati, which were meant for Karamoja, and we are sanctioning you, which is within their rights to say, we don't want to associate with this person. I am not going to come and say, they should have stated the exact reason. And I am saying it again, that there was a speaker who passed the law. It does not matter whether that law was thrown out or not. The one who threw it out is court, not the speaker. They should have gone against that speaker in 2013. They did not. There is Asuman Basariwa, there is Jonathan Odu that presented that law on the floor of Parliament. There is the legal committee that he sits on, Honorable Katuntu, that wrote the report that supported the law. They have not gone against anyone there. He's not the chair. I know that for a fact. He's not the chair. So no, you are not the chair now. He's the chair of rules who sanctioned. Who wrote a report against Zake, yet they don't deal in social media rumors, and Zake had said the comments on social media. So what I am saying,
just read even the judgment.
Read the constitutional court.
Edgar, your microphone is off. So in short, Abdu. In short.
What do you mean?
Agatha, Abdu is not on microphone. So in short, you are not unhappy about the sanctions.
No, I am very happy. I already stated it.
That you are happy.
If we have
whether they have effect or not, you are happy.
We have a government that has refused to hold corrupt people accountable. We are going to be happy for whoever holds them accountable.
That's a good note to go for the break.
The Capital Gang on 91.3 Capital FM. The Capital Gang on 91.3 Capital FM.
Welcome back from the break. This is the Capital Gang, bits of law discussed in the break. Let's start with you, Agatha, because you're an active journalist. World Press Freedom Day was yesterday, celebrated world over. What does that day mean to Uganda?
Thank you, Oskar, once again. I am recovering from the intimidation from Edgar and Honorable Katuntu. So I am, and you know, anyway, let's go back to that conversation after when it's in a break. But World Press Freedom Day and what it means for Uganda, I think we all need a free press. Free press is a big determinant for democracy, if we care about democracy as a country. But for Uganda, unfortunately, that's not the case, because when you're looking at press freedom, there are a few determinants that we need to look at. The legal framework, which initially was good for press freedom under the Constitution, under the Access to Information Act, and so many other laws. But when you come up with the laws that we have seen of late, for example, the Computer Misuse Act and its later amendment, you see a progression into trying to go against what the spirit of the 1995 Constitution envisaged. But, for example, access to information, one of the biggest issues in this country is that we have both the Constitution and an act that allow for information that is in the interest of the public to be accessed, but it's a crime in this country, for example, to write about something like procurement, which is, which even the laws say that it should be transparent, that it should be published by the person, the entity procuring itself. I wrote about the procurement of ceremonial cards at Parliament in 2022, and I know how far that went into a CID writing a report against me and the people that were suspected to have given me that information being even sent out of Parliament. So we start from there, that these laws, when we are enacting them, and I'm happy to call you senior legislator, Honorable Katuntu, for you were even part of the passing of these laws. When they are passing and when they are being implemented, what happens after passing these laws? The other issue is really I think we have the biggest cases of journalists being brutalized and attacked in the line of their work.
Biggest in comparison to?
In comparison to the East African region, yes. In terms of the numbers, yes. But no. You see, and you guys didn't hear what I said. In Kigali, you are not even allowed to write. You are fearing maybe to write. But I'm talking about the numbers that of people that, and the numbers are there. We have cases in the...
To measure success, you also need to explain in terms of...
And this is what I'm explaining. That in Kigali it is true the press is censored. Here we are lied to that we have freedom to go and cover a demonstration, for example, and when we get there, what happened? Do you know how many journalists were beaten during the campaigns of 2021? One ended up with a bullet in his head.
Rhetorical question, Edgar. You responded.
So that's the thing.
I have a message. Yes, I have a message. Say the gentlemen Tabaharo and Katuntu are wasting time. They are losing their argument by not allowing the young lady to speak.
Oh no,
so allow her
it's
to
okay.
Speak.
I also
the point you're making.
Like
There was a time journalists had gone to present some kind of petition.
Yes.
In 2021,
and they themselves at a Human Rights Commission. Yeah.
And that's the point I'm making.
And they didn't get them.
These things are there for everyone to see. The reports are there. For example, the Human Rights Network for Journalists has a report that talks about cases year in, year out, that talks about the biggest culprits of that being the police and the army. So I am
the security police.
I'm talking about that. So when they come and say, oh, in comparison to who you go to Rwanda, I am saying that maybe in Rwanda people know I shouldn't even cover something and they don't go. We should be told the same so that we know this. We were talking about pretense and dishonesty here when it comes to sanctions. I think even as a government, there are things they shouldn't pretend about, that, okay, we have the press and it's free to do this when it cannot. When you look at ownership, it's another big factor. that we have about 300 radio stations and about 30 TV stations, which are owned by mainly politicians.
You like to say regime.
Yeah, NRM politicians.
Across the political divide.
And I said mainly. The major owners, I can even count 1, 2, 3 on my. It's a fact, and he knows it. So when I say mainly, when I say mainly, I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying mainly it's NRM politicians. We have seen cases where people are going on radio and they are switched off or they are turned away. So you have.
This happens regularly out of Kampala. It's only in Kampala where you can.
Okay,
Agatha can speak, but
even
if you
on the
are
radio, we are on one.
Now they have
one
deployed deputy RDCs.
One panelist was sent.
Agatha may not be able to speak anywhere out of Kampala.
I have somewhere to speak from. Me, I don't mind. So that ownership issue, it comes to NRM cadres, NRM business. NRM card holding business people or sympathizers. It goes to Pentecostals, the pastors, the religious affiliated, who are also really NRM people that go to pray for President Museveni, where his wife and daughter are a big thing in that area. That ownership problem also affects press freedom a lot. When you look at remuneration, the economic welfare of journalists in this country is another big factor in press freedom. How they are paid, how much they are paid, and that's why every day we see today a Joseph Sabit goes and becomes a parliamentary spokesperson. Tomorrow a Shirandu Huchere goes and works with National Medical Stores. And I have seen that problem. Many newsrooms suffer with it. When you look at countries, it's a big problem, very big problem. No, if journalism was a good opportunity, they wouldn't be looking for another. Look at other countries where you have journalists like Larry King, who leaves the studio when they are retiring, like in other jobs. So you need that experience. And it affects press freedom. You need that experience. You need that institutional memory. You need that knowledge that journalists and many newsrooms grapple with that. That we bring in journalists here, train them, and they do well, and they become experts on certain fields. But tomorrow, because they want to feed their families, they want to thrive, they will leave. Okay, maybe they don't thrive where they are, but to survive better, more comfortably, and they will live. And all these issues affect press freedom in this country. I think if I was to say on a scale of 1 to 10 about press freedom in this country, I would say 2 out of 10. And it's a worrying trend. It gets worse by the day. It's something that I keep wondering how we will think about it. Look at people when they write something and the consequences. You have censorship from the government itself, but you also have self-censorship that people are worrying, if I write this, what will happen to me? People are worrying, like Oskar worries a lot, if I bring Agatha to say her mind, what will happen to Capital Gang, or I mean to Capital FM as a radio, if it's not going to be switched off. And I think if there's something that we need to keep as a country is to keep that. At least let people talk. At least let people express themselves. At least let the press give the public the information that they need. That's why we are the fourth estate.
Okay, well spoken. Joseph?
I just want to say that Agatha seems to have summarily executed it to the extent that I have very little to say, but I must say that I am a believer in 5 estates, actually. And Oskar, when you kindly invited me here, I was thinking through fifth columnist. No, we have too many fifth columnists here. Poor Dr. Body in heaven. Yes, the fifth columnists are very, very perfect here. No, I was thinking, Oskar, that the fourth estate is the most undermined estate, just as Agatha has articulated. And I'm not quite sure whether the citizens of this country appreciate the import of the media, and that as the critical estate of the other three states, the executive, the judiciary, and indeed the my good friends in Parliament. The other missing state is actually the fifth state, which should really be the first, meaning the citizenry. Part of the challenge this country faces is, after the death of political parties, the last 20 years we've been struggling to reclaim our spaces and reclaim our voices. And when I personally came out of exile, I obviously was spoiled by not self-imposed. I know you like to. That's why at the beginning of this program people thought that, well, you should be sitting where Katesh is, because you're really sometimes a very emphatic mouthpiece of this this NRA. So. So I was going through newsrooms and meeting many young journalists, some of whom may be listening. And part of my continued thing, Abdu, partly as UPC, is this instinctive thing about trying to build people, building communities, building institutions. And I was then very concerned about the quality of journalism. I met a number of editors, and partly because of my many experiences, liked going to talk and to quote, teach, including backroom staff. That I continue to do today. Agatha raised a very important point. One of the reasons is that you want a teacher who has 20 years experience, and then from there on they move on to become maybe departmental heads. By the time they become head teachers, you know they're around it. In journalism, generally, in part because of some of the things that Agatha says, it's not very easy to find solid Oskars of this world. In fact, Oskar, a friend of mine, suggested that this gang is Oskar's gang in Capital Gang, and I know somebody took exception. But why? Because Oskar, out of solidity, over a period of time, he's a respected voice and an authority in the street. Part of what actually Agatha is saying. There are not many people of that level. One of the things that Agatha says, that possibly hasn't mentioned very emphatically, is, I have said this including conferences, the absence of solid female journalists as a career, as a trade, meaning the big name voices of the Oscars, but female. This is a sort of really the representation of society. And in a case where I rarely associated myself positively with any institution of the state, one of the few credits I gave to, and I'll say it here perhaps, I know the owners of Capital will not mind me mentioning New Vision, was that one of the few credits I gave to William Pike was the work he did at New Vision. I was very critical because for various reasons, and William knows this, but that he brought in this gender element and genuinely a culture of training, not only young journalists, but also predominantly young female journalists. And that is important for our country going forward. Now, Agatha raises some important points. I've been a columnist in various spaces. For me to write for the New African, I'm mini boasting, and a publication in Uganda has issues with publishing my opinion as Ochieno, which I thought would be an opportunity to encourage and to grow a citizen of this country. Why? Because they fear editorial positions and they fear some guys at the top of state. I have had cases, Oskar, where I, as I understand it, some of my pieces have been held back or withdrawn for a reason that they're going to be a discomfort to particular individuals. We are talking press freedom. In any case, what normally should happen is that an opinion like of mine, my opinion, Edgar's opinion, indeed Abdu's opinion, particularly in print away from here, you should actually rebut by producing an alternative piece, and that is how nations grow. If Ochieno says something which is, or writes something which possibly either inaccurate or a view that you don't respond to, particularly this NRA guys, and I know NRA guys listen to this program, that is the cheeky thing that you guys should do. Respond in print. I know columns in this country where, as I understand it, editors beg NRA guys to write, beg NRA guys to give opinion, but they're not anywhere, partly because they haven't a clue, or partly because they attended the UPE writing skills, not the UPC writing skills, and so therefore they're not able to do so. Sinking
thank you.
Opinion of the people. But it has also been said in many cases, particularly outside Kampala, where some radio stations are not able to host people. Now, of course, the majority of the citizens live in the country, and very few people beyond capital are able to have access to this. I think World Press Freedom Season should be one in which I think as Ugandans we should be looking inward and backward. And indeed, shame on those guys who own these media houses and they hold back people who basically want to go and express their very basic opinion. The alternative, of course, people shouldn't forget, is going to Luwero.
Thank you. Katesh,
yes.
World Freedom Day. What does it mean to us in Uganda?
First of all, I think
Press Freedom Day.
Press freedom here, Agatha says he would rate us at 2 out of 10. I think the country is rated highly on press freedom. Not only in the region, according to my opinion. Not only in the region, because if we talk of world press freedom, my mind goes to Gaza. How many journalists have died trying to cover that story? How many journalists have been imprisoned in that part of the world? Because just they are trying to cover the news. I have been seeing sanctions on Al Jazeera and many other media. So when we talk about global world press freedom, and Ugandan, we are here complaining, saying, you score 20%, I think we are not being very, very honest with ourselves. The media is free in this country. Are there problems? Yes. Maybe not at 100%, but generally we are doing much better. But I want to say something, Oskar. Freedom comes with responsibility. We are all free to use the roads. I drive from here, take my children to school. It's free. But it comes with responsibility. I'm not going to sit there in the middle of the road and then start I park and I use the roadway. No, responsibility. There is responsibility. So media, many times when we are discussing freedom, we do not discuss the other side of the responsibility that comes with the freedom. If you want absolute responsibility, then you must behave with absolute responsibility. Because I say this, why? Because the present day journalism, sometimes you cannot draw the line between whether this is a journalist or he's an activist or he's an agent of the NGO world. I'm not. I'm not talking about you. You are just giving yourself as an example. I don't know. You cannot distinguish whether. So it comes to now us to believe, okay, which interests are you presenting? Are you a practicing journalism or you are an activist? Because the present day journalism has changed for the better, but also for the worse. Why? If you look at print media, for example, I mean, there is no more, you cannot wait for breaking news by waiting for tomorrow's publication. It is all over. Uganda currently has about 2.6 million social media users. There are so many people who actually, I just feel sorry for journalists who studied journalism, because it's one of those courses where you needed to have scored very highly to get to mass comm. Not so.
Yeah.
But now everybody, I don't want to use the word I wanted to use, but everybody is a journalist. In fact, when it comes to upcountry, you find someone is recording. You just get a jacket. This is like tourism. The cargo. Then he puts behind press. He gets a camera. He starts moving around. Some of them go during political campaigns. They will go to the playground and then they start recording stories, and it has diluted the quality of the professional journalists that we knew. The Onyango Boys, you'd not miss the article. These days, I apart from I like Ofono Pondo's article because of many other reasons. But I ask myself.
You ask yourself?
I ask myself, which journalist must I look forward to read his or her publication in a daily? No, for you have transited between journalism and politics, so I don't want to put.
Hold on, it's about to finish.
Yes, I'm about to finish.
Hold on.
Let me finish.
Yes.
So the present day circumstances have diluted this profession, and there is a lot of unregulated journalism, activism that passes around as journalism. It is unregulated, and we need to think about it. How many online? You've talked about the pay. I own a radio station in Shema. Yes, Shema Broadcasting Services. I do not even break even. Among many other businesses. But it is there largely to supplement, socioeconomic.
Or a political tool.
Okay, whatever you use it. But I want to tell you that whom are you competing against? You have online bloggers. You'll find that one individual who has a social media blog has maybe more followers and users than a radio station. And when it comes to adverts, he's going to get more opportunities than an ordinary radio station. So actually, if you start a radio station thinking you are going to make money, a special up country, you are wasting time. So finally.
Yeah, but Katesh, I must also challenge you. On your radio station, you probably wouldn't allow an NUP promoter to support.
There is a talk show as I speak now, and if you tune in, because it's online, you have FDC. Actually, there are two. There is FDC Katonga and and Najana Kumbi and someone from UPC. They are all there because it's all. So and PRU also. Yes, all of them are there. So
I had said NUP.
My point here, Oskar, is that when it comes to the issue she mentioned,
does an NUP come to
they
the
come
radio?
because it's better to have an argument, like Oskar said, put it on the table and we discuss. And that's why some of us are in Parliament. We cannot fear any discussion as long as it is from an objective point of view. So finally, the point you mentioned, that it's bad, journalists start here, then they are ending up in other jobs. At the end of the day, when you are working, if your profession cannot put money on your table, that's why people take on other degrees. Midway, he says, I studied legal, let me do what? Now, I think if the business cannot break even to pay you adequately to put food on your table, then the options you have is to look for a better opportunity or to supplement your income. That is a natural thing. So we should not be here to say, because journalists are moving from here, what about those who are moving from journalism indirectly to activism and they are being facilitated, but they do not declare? So do you want us to go into that discussion? So my point is the transition is justified because businesses, maybe they may not afford to pay a digit figure salary. Yeah?
Okay.
So
let's go. Agatha, your microphone is switched off. So.
I think Agatha has taken my time.
No, but you are the one speaking. No one has had any comment she's made.
So my final
sentence on that one, then to go to Abdu, then Edgar.
Journalism has been diluted. It should be the conversation we should look at. Two, the state should look at how do we regulate, okay? And then the world should be very honest. Let's not be here. So when they are condemning Uganda, you are about to press freedom. What happens? Yesterday I was watching a journalist who was covering demonstrations. There are these students who are being evicted from a university in the US. I saw the person being smashed by, I think, and those are things which don't come out. But talk about Uganda, it's like a worst place to be for a journalist.
Honorable
No,
Katumta.
we are doing actually better. But you can do.
Katesh talks about regulation, but I've reminded him that even as Agatha said, him having a radio station in Shema, it is another NRM tool. So that one may not need any regulation. But as we sit here, NAMFCA is not here.
Highly regulated by
You could just start with that.
Problem with the regulatory environment.
With the regulatory environment, Katesh, NAMFCA is not here. You could start with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I miss her. I am sure she's listening in.
Yes, we're going to have a meeting and then she'll return. But it is a question we have on social media all the time.
Well, you
and
can
Agatha
decide
is
to
always
close
teasing
your
me.
mind to what goes on around you. That should be right. Other people open their minds that whatever goes on, whether you agree with it or not, is another matter. But let me say, with our levels of socio-economic development, there are many things that will happen. And societies have this problem. Press freedom, you'll go to many other freedoms, whether economic freedom, political freedoms, because don't look at it in isolation of other freedoms around you. And societies go through all this. And I'll give you an example. I disagree with sometimes when a journalist imagine, and Agatha, listen to this. There is a lawful political rally being organized by the opposition. And the political decision has been taken that it will not take place. So security comes to unlawfully disperse a lawful assembly. They do it with the most brutal force, hitting the politician, chasing you, whether you are MPs, whether you're presidential candidate, mention it. And here is a journalist covering it like it is a movie, and you think you'll be spared. This policeman who is beating an innocent member of parliament or politician, and you are there covering it to show it to the whole world, you'll certainly be victims too, because that's what it is. Society is having that challenges where freedoms, especially by states, are not respected. States don't respect people's freedoms. So it would be wrong to imagine that they will let you cover. Katesh talk of, I don't want to talk about Gaza because that is an extreme case. You know, the guy is just throwing what? Bombs and so on. They don't know who they are hitting and so on. But once you go there, you'll certainly be also a collateral damage. So what is the solution, in my view, is just to raise our levels of political development, our levels of politics, our socioeconomic levels, and some of the press freedoms, press there, whatever it is, things will change. I'll give you an example. In the US, the Democrats have the liberals have their own mouthpiece. CNN, for example. The conservatives, the Republicans, have their own mouthpiece, the Fox. And they are all there. When you open up, some of us who are really a little bit informed, you know, we're reading both. We're watching both Fox News and, you see them fighting and fighting and fighting. Have we reached those levels? No. Why? Because once you write something, Agatha, they'll just say this is an opposition activist. So they'll come to you not as a journalist, but as an what? An opposition activist. As hard as they'll fall on a Chagulanyi, they'll also fall hard on you, so because that's how you are categorized. Oskar, I don't agree when people don't, just read the history of the entire world. Many leaders, many have been journalists before. And they have risen to the top. They practiced journalism and moved away in a society because they are so much interested in public affairs. And the journalists should, because what they always do, those who do it professionally. Of course, there's another group, a terrible group. But the journalists, professional journalists, are interested in public affairs. They are more informed, they are learned, and they are ethical. And for that reason, they move on to other public responsibilities.
In fact, that's why I call them the critiques of the first three estates. Extremely important. And to be able to do so, they really must be up there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you see, they're supposed to be the public eye because they're supposed to be everywhere. I'll give you an example. It is me, Agatha, who authored the Access to Information Act. Me.
Yeah, private members. Yeah.
Why was I doing it? Because since the enactment or the promulgation of the Constitution, Article 41 had never been operationalized. And I said, okay, because that particular constitutional provision, Oskar, allows the public to have access to information within the custody of the state. It's a constitutional right, but there was no enabling law. I sat with two responsible journalists, Charles Mangusha, actually three. Oh, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't go into that. And then we came up with a framework. Took me 2 months to draft a bill, presented it, and in Sababuturo grabbed it, removed the mind, and put, I said, look here, that in the academia world, they call that what? Plagiarism.
Plagiarism. Why plagiarism?
Yeah, no, actually.
That's no UPC.
I'm not so sure whether I am.
Conclude and we go to Edgar.
So, what we do, and this one, Agatha is right. You see, if the state has information and you don't give it out to the public, you tell me how will, for example, the fourth estate, if they are not informed, how would they help the public say, this is what is going on? And Agatha, let me tell you, the journalists also needs to raise their act. They do. Because there are things, you don't differentiate whether it is rumor mongering or actually information which should be given to the public for purposes of helping the state to run. And that's what Katesh was talking about, that freedom goes with what? Responsibility. The day you kill the press, you've killed our last line of defense as a democracy or as a country, if you kill the press. However, sometimes the press helps the killers of the press because you give them an excuse to come. And that, for the real professional journalist, should really be conscious of that, to make sure that you practice journalism professionally. And I can tell you, you'll have everybody on your side because it is in the interest of any country.
Edgar Tabaharo. They
Oskar, will you let me respond?
Yes.
One or two things?
Yes, certainly. Edgar, when we start to, Agatha did it well. She differentiated.
Whatever she does well.
Yes, the challenges with
whether it's
with
good
the
or
media,
bad, she does well.
Media houses and all. But sometimes, because we have a lot of people that work, for example, on radio stations or television media houses, and the bigger challenge is with political reporters, political editors. They seem to suffer the most. Would you agree?
I beg your pardon? You said what?
In reference with this World Press Freedom Day, it is mostly in reference to politics, political editors, political reporters, and Abdu even inserted, and Katesh inserted, and activists.
And investigative journalists.
Let me
and
give
a little bit investigative journalists, but investigative journalists seem to be accepted all the time.
Let me give a background. Let me give a background to this. I think, as one, when it comes to fundamental human rights, those of you who have interacted with this at times, certainly Mr. Ochieno, you know there I'm uncompromising. They are not negotiable. And they cut across. Whoever you are, I see many people engaged in sophistry and what have you, but believe me, we are all potential candidates for being on the receiving side of these things. So when it comes to fundamental human rights, our political lenses, our whatever creeds, we should set aside.
It goes with your training as an advocate.
No, not just
anyway.
My upbringing too. My dad is a retired judge.
But just go back to
when it came to enforcement of fundamental human rights, he was unwavering on that.
Go back to the differentiation, the line I want you to take, because a lot has been said across the table.
Political editors.
Yes.
I want to give you a background to this.
In the few minutes you have.
In the few minutes I have. In the late 80s and 1990s, when we were emerging from what we have been told was a period of repression and all other ugly words that they like to deploy, all other adjectives that they like to deploy. I remember there was an attempt to promote press freedom. There was an attempt, if you do remember President Museveni, from whenever he was hosting a head of state, he would call for a press conference at Entebbe Airport. Whenever he would be returning from travel, he would call a press conference. He even had regular interactions with with editors of the media houses. Over the years, I think he got too busy. And with matters of the state and certainly the region. Fast forward, we enter a period of pluralism, multi-party democracy. Unfortunately, our state actors never change their mindset. Yeah. They still operate. I don't want to use very strong words, but they still operate like we're in a one-party state, or when they had styled it a no-party state. And any differing opinion, any difference in opinion, you are called all sorts of names: reactionaries, chipingamizi, agent of imperialism. And lately, I think one of the favorite terms that I used that I used earlier, and unfortunately, Agatha thought I was referring to her. I said unprincipled regime change agents, but I don't know why she thought I was referring to her. I was really referring generally, and persons who take exception to what is deemed to be the excesses or what they don't accept by state actors, state players, you're seen as an enemy of the state. And that characterization is what has driven us in the space that we are. 10 years ago, I was one of the consultants on scoring, on designing the tool for press, indexing the press freedom in Uganda. And we came with a very extensive, very detailed tool that, it was a little bit academic because, at that time I was still in full-time. I had a tenured teaching position at Uganda Christian University. And one of the areas I was teaching was at Makerere. I was a visiting lecturer at Makerere School of Journalism for media law. And, with my background with the JUCOs of this world, Professor Waya, Oloko Nyango, and I schooled in South Africa where there's relative press, freedom. So I had all these fanciful ideas. And the way we designed it, we even went into aspects of ownership and cross-ownership, even directorships in the media. And this media house was one of our case studies. You had the managing director of a media house who owns a radio station, and a radio station for English and Luganda, as well as owned an advertising agency, one that basically determines the spend for advertising. It was really, really deep. And I also, I authored, I was part of the authors, I was the legal leader list, with now Senior Counsel Jimara.
I'm going to interrupt you because I'm looking. I can't get where you're going with this regarding world press freedom.
No, I'm coming to it. I'm coming to it. You see, I'm a teacher, and so
but
you are.
But this is a short program.
It's a short.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
But you come.
Yeah.
We're not in a lecture hall.
But you see, you have to understand the basis for this.
No, we've already understood.
Scoring,
they are not patient.
They are not patient.
We have already understood.
I'm a patient person. What I'm trying to say is that when it comes to scoring press freedom, the parameters that we used are borrowed from a template that may not necessarily work here. She's brought out the aspects of remuneration for media, for journalists, and you talked about professionalism and in training at Makerere University. If you limit journalists to possession of a degree, you'll have locked out so many people. And he has told you breaking even is not simple for him. He's running his media house at a loss, basically to promote his politics. I mean, that's the impression I get. And that's where the problem is. When you're regulating media ownership, there are certain persons, even the number of stations that can be registered in a radius should be regulated. Now, this... If
I was a regulator, I would not allow Katesh to own a radio station.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
A member of a ruling party.
That's why you're not a regulator.
That's why you are not a regulator.
He's a member of a ruling party, and they already have so many. So,
but
but
the regulator would be also a member of the ruling party.
Well, but we've
had regulators. We've had Honorable Kantu, we've had regulators with the radio stations themselves.
Yes.
So I mean, this
Oscar, what world are you living in?
Indeed.
So indeed, what world are we living in? So we designed.
Abdu, your friend is the regulator now.
No. Let's talk about other things.
Pass a microphone to Agatha. And then
let me conclude it this way.
In a sentence.
In a sentence that, I mean, we boxed ourselves in a corner. We permitted the ruling elite to control that space. And this is what we are.
Finally, you found a meeting point with Agatha.
Really?
Right. Go on. Yeah.
You tell us where we stand.
Where we stand.
Agatha?
Uganda is not better than many of its neighbors.
Oscar,
yeah.
I'd like to respond to a few things that actually, mainly Katesh
very
brought
briefly.
out. Yes. I think we can have a discussion another day on the quality of journalism. It's really bad to sound like you're justifying how journalism are beaten because of their quality. You know, it has nothing to do with quality if I go to cover anything and I am beaten. And it ties in with what Honorable Abdu also said. He's talking about a country where other freedoms are also, violated anyway, a lawful rally. That the police comes to unlawfully disperse and beats journalists in the process. But we have seen where they are actually targeted. Not just that they are beaten because the police was beating out demonstrators or people at a rally. I can give you two examples. In Kalangala, after the arrest of Bobi Wine, they got two journalists, the security agent as officials, got two journalists, Carlton Scovia Kasiri and Derek Wandera, I think. They knew they were journalists and they held them captive for hours. So,
go on.
For hours until calls were made from Kampala, and because we were saying, release them. These they knew were journalists. They were picked up not because they were picking up other people, questioning them, why are you always covering this rally? We know people, yes. We know people that were, nation media journalists during those campaigns. There's one called Ali Mivule that was beaten. They knew he's a journalist seated there. They just single him out as a journalist and beat him up and also asking, why are you always covering a rally? So I have a job to inform Ugandans about what's happening, whether good or bad, whether lawful or unlawful. If we are going to beat journalists because they are doing their job, because we are categorizing them as... because that's what happens in this country, by the way. You are categorized for just doing your job. You are an activist, an agent of imperialists, and... Nation media journalists have a hard time, that's correct. All of us, but mainly those. And they are really, really targeted. It's not an accident. It's not an accident. It's someone coming and beating you when you are just holding a camera and they are seeing you are not even near a politician they want to pick up. The other issue about activism and agents of NGOs, I want to also, let me also now claim seniority and educate Honorable Katesh. NGOs mean not for profit. There are so many There are so many journalism-related entities that are not for profit. And that's the way people have gone to find a way of doing more independent journalism. Because we are saying, I am not going to look for advertisers to advertise and take away my independence so that tomorrow I will not write about Parliament because Parliament advertises with me, or I will not talk about MTN because MTN gives me adverts. There are so many, I can count them, and even in Uganda it has started that people have seen the way to go if you want to do journalism that has less limitations than the business ones is so we are
go on.
We are we can be and there's also no conflict between being an activist and a journalist. So activists and journalists actually do the same thing, that we are advocating and saying this is wrong, or you advocate about something, or this is right, let's all rally behind it. Maybe the only
Katesh has said he likes OO's writing, and OO is also an activist.
Yes.
As well as a journalist.
And lastly,
is a cadre
he just doesn't
activist.
Lastly, I want to
that I will
use the
also
last 5 minutes to
still
put
emphasize
to Abdu.
You cannot address this issue of remuneration by saying if you're not comfortable in this profession, study something else or go to something else. But we need journalists. Yeah. We need journalism. We need educated journalists in that field and experienced and knowledgeable. So why don't we say, let's find a better way of maybe remunerating them so that they stay in a job that is much needed. And it's not really a problem. When you are at journalism school, there are those people that will major in PR because public relations people also study journalism, and there are those that will major in print or broadcast. So when I go in print, because it's what I love, but I'm pushed out of it because it can't feed my family, and we are all going into PR.
You nearly said that Abdu's Parliament needs PR, but pause there.
Yes.
Coming back to Abdu and the entire panel. 5 minutes left to the end of the show. Honorable Semujuizawe, send me apologies and also photographs and videos of consultations he's with retired Dr. Kiza Besije consulting. Today they're in Gulu. Wow. So question to every panelist here, are we ready for a new party? That's what they're consulting about. Beginning with you, Honorable Katonto.
Sometimes I don't want to discuss something about Forum for Democratic Change.
It's not with FDC. They are not going around with FDC. No, this is Dr. Kiza Besije.
But for the moment, Dr. Kiza Besije is.
I don't know. For the moment, is. Okay. But the question to you was very direct. Are we ready for a new political party in your position?
There would be new political parties coming in. The mistake people make is that because you have opposition, so all the parties think alike. And that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Whatever you do, political parties are ideally formed because they don't agree with other political parties. The public, especially those who seek to change the current regime, what the Katesh is calling regime change, think that this guy, you work together and overthrow. So you overthrow and then do what? Then you start fighting yourselves. So the issue is, as we talk now, there is nothing called uniform opposition. There is no way you have, for example, the group which is now Katonga is the one moving around, agree with the Democratic Party group or with the UPC group or even with the National Unity Platform group. Because they don't agree. Or with the Najanankum, because they don't agree. Is there going to be a new party? It is, in my view, coming. Why? They are just, actually they have formed one. But they are only trying to formalize it and say they have consulted. But as far as I know, there is a new political party in Katonga.
Okay.
A little bit.
Joseph, your 1 minute.
It's extremely unfortunate, Oskar, that we are discussing another possibility of a formation of a new political party. I get Abdu, but
would you send me an apology saying is there with Dr. Kizza Besigye in Gulu. Yesterday they were in Lira consulting about forming a new political party.
My advice to them, and Ibrahim is a good friend. I was trying to persuade him to join UPC the other week, but my advice. Fantastic. My advice really is one which I would have given Dr. Besigye, and I've told this program actually that I think we need fewer political parties, but possibly more leaders. I think we need to be finding common grounds, Abdu, around the context of ideology, left versus right. In this case, political parties whose values are consistent with the vast majority of the people, and you don't necessarily have to agree with everything in that political party. So
this is good, and UPC is excellent.
Absolutely, and had Dr. Besigye maybe, after disagreeing with the NRM, decided to return either to UPC or perhaps to DP, where possibly his wife would have leaned him towards. I think it would have been easier to what Abdu was saying. Okay. It would have been easier for us to have focused on alternative systems.
Agatha now. Agatha,
but good luck to them.
Agatha, is there space for a political party?
For the Kenyan sort of formation. Every election.
Is there space for a new opposition political party?
Yes, definitely.
I don't think there's space for a new political party in this country. We already have more than enough. But also, if it's Honorable Kizza Besigye going around asking whether he should form another political party, I would be so surprised, because he has said political parties do not work. And he has said that in this country where you cannot even be allowed to do anything, a political party doesn't work. I would be surprised if he thinks forming another one after FDC is a solution. Okay. Yes.
Edgar Tabaharo, do we have space for a new opposition political party?
I think, people are permitted the latitude to associate with those they wish to associate to. Tomorrow I might form a political party with the Honorable Kantu to post himself.
So there is
for
space.
Us for space. But I think, given the open reasons that Honorable Dr. Kizza Besigye states, he's pushing for regime change at whatever cost and by all means. The same position as the Honorable Chagulanyi.
Okay.
In the Constitution, by all means permitted by the Constitution.
Exactly.
That is, he's smart to that extent.
Thank you, Edgar.
And then we have Honorable Chagulanyi. For him, he says openly his stated position. So I think they are going to form a special purpose vehicle to further that political objective.
Honorable Katesh, is there space for a new political party? You're the official NRM, because we have already said Tabaharo is the unofficial. But for you, the official NRM, having last word on the capital gang.
The space is always there. And I don't think that we are going to see only one. There will be several. Why? Because the post-independence parties have let down themselves and the people, because they have not been able to keep the groove. The new players who come with personal agendas sometimes, and then move away from the cause, and as a result you have sprinter groups coming. I do not think we are going to see even the one they will form. At some point it will break.
It will die quickly.
It will break. So the most thing, I think, what is likely to happen is what Honorable Kantu mentioned. We are going back to the politics of coalition, like our neighbors here. And we try to come together. Otherwise, even ours, you already see we have PRU. It has the membership is multiple. It's not a party yet, but something might come up.
Thank you.
But these old parties are largely to blame for what is happening. Because
I allowed you to have final word.
I think
Joseph, we said Katesh will have final word today, so you'll have to stomach his final word. So the Uganda Matters University is seeking applicants for undergraduate and postgraduate programs for the academic year 2024-2025. Applicants, you should have a degree in a relevant area from a recognized university and a minimum of 2 principal passes. So visit their campuses in Nkozi, Lubaga, Fort Portal, Masaka, Mbale, and Kampala, or call 772-513-715. Their motto, Uganda Matters University, where knowledge meets opportunity. Thank you, Honorable Katuntu, for appearance on the gang. Thank you, Honorable Katesh, for appearance on the gang. Thank you, Edgar Tabaharo. Thank you, Agathe Atuhaire. The social media war, you are ahead of Katuntu and Tabaharo. When you revisit it, your people are there posting. Joseph Ochieno, ever optimist UPC. Thank you so much for Capital Gang. I am Oskar Musoke, and I shall see you next week.
Dish Concepts brings you the Beats and Bliss Carnival, showcasing love for culture and adventure. On Saturday, 18th of May, come to Buhinga Stadium, Fort Portal Tourism City for a musical gala featuring Baby Cool,